Thimbleweed Park is a point-and-click adventure game developed by Ron Gilbert and Gary Winnick. This game is very similar to their previous games, Maniac Mansion, released in 1987, and The Secret of Monkey Island, released in 1990, and it is designed to be similar to graphic adventures games released in that time period, both visually and gameplay-wise. As you may know, those two are some of the most popular and influential games of the graphic adventure point-and-click genre, so what we get in Thimbleweed Park is top-notch. The game is seen from a third-person perspective, with a view of the area taking up the majority of the screen. In the bottom portion we got an inventory and a list of verbs such as use, pick up, and talk to, that we will use paired with objects, people, etc. We can switch between 5 playable characters whenever we want, and each one complements the story and the gameplay. Speaking of gameplay-wise, that's all that it is. Use verbs to interact with objects, people, and things in the world and solve various puzzles. Some are tied up to the inventory system, requiring you to have specific items in order to proceed or to activate something. This is a detective-like investigation game set in 1987, and that's initially what caught my attention. I love detective and mystery stories, and the style, the mysterious setting, and the people behind the project is what led me to actually try this game in the first place. FBI agents Ray and Reyes arrive at the town of Thimbleweed Park to investigate a murder. Their investigation leads them to the nearby town of Thimbleweed Park, a bizarre, fun, old, and mysterious, and to a certain degree creepy old town in the middle of nowhere. Thimbleweed Park is a town that has machines that operate with vacuum tubes, plumbers dress up as pigeons, strange and abandoned places, an old pillow factory, mansions, abandoned circuses, haunted hotels, and finally a great and fun cast of colorful characters. From the mysterious and funny Pigeon Brothers to the cliche I don't care type of people that run the dinner, to the eccentric millionaires, to a weird sheriff that has many jobs and personalities and no one notices or cares that the sheriff is the same person. Oh, and he adds an annoying Reno at the end of everything. Not to be confused obviously by the coroner though, he goes with the ahoo at the end of everything, and definitely not the same person. Sarcasm aside, the playable characters all have their own backstories and unique personalities, and it is really fun to spend time with them. My personal favorite is Agent Ray. The soundtrack is amazing, as it usually is within the games. It sets the mood and the atmosphere, and you get this old, strange, abandoned, cheesy kind of feeling. The pixel art is absolutely delightful, the color palette is fantastic, and the animations, while limited, they're fine. A cool little addition is the phone. It's simple, yeah, but really cool. You can pick up numbers around town and have fun calling some folks and just have a couple of laughs. Speaking of laughs, the comedy is a huge set piece in this game. I think it's cool and enjoyable. Definitely had a good couple of laughs. It is constantly game breaking though, in the sense that it breaks the fourth wall. It also has references to pop culture and actual stuff and their previous games. There's a hotline you can call if you're stuck, and the operator is aware that it is speaking to the player directly and not one of the characters. When the agents find a dead body on the river, that's basically the beginning of the game, they comment on how it looks like it's decomposing and it reflects in the pixelation, etc, etc. The humor is not for everyone, but I'm sure most of you will enjoy it. The plot unravels and the mystery / detective thing is put aside really quickly to focus on more personal aspects and motivation that the game hints since the very beginning. Each character has a separate mission. After that second plot is solved, there's a third one, but even mentioning it will be a huge spoiler. Seriously, don't check out story stuff if you're going to try it. It's one of those things that work better if you're fresh. The characters are all amazing, seriously very fleshed out personalities and designs. The voice actors did a fantastic job on this. I will give a 10 out of 10 on the BA department. Now I wanted to talk about a couple of things that affected my experience, my personal experience, and that may happen to you, as well as some strange design choices. Video game awareness. Thimbleweed Park, as I've mentioned before, is fully aware that it is a video game, throwing constant fourth-wall breaking references and jokes to the player, and that's the point of the humor incorporated in this game, I get it, but it is really hard to fully immerse yourself in the narrative when suddenly a character says, should I save my game? And I just think that due to their previous work based on goofy humor, you shouldn't expect a full immersion. Sure, you can really get it into the narrative at some points when you're near the end of the game and right when you start, and maybe around mid-game, but the feeling doesn't last long. For example, everyone forgets about the dead body near the river very quickly. For a game that starts with a strong event like that, seems odd. Sure, you get this kind of unease feeling like when Reyes doesn't know that there's an office in Albuquerque, even though he's a federal agent for some reason, or why he keeps asking about an accident that happened 20 years ago, or why Ray seems to have a side mission that she's not telling anyone about. And that's the problem. At first, it really got me thinking and wondering. I was fully focused on that, only to be let down by the goofy tone and once again, this game knowing it's a game. Other games such as Bioshock and Spec Ops: The Line talk to the player in an indirect and subtle way. Feels natural and not forced at all, and it is fantastic. Those games, of course, have a lot more to say. They're more serious and narrative focused, and it is a silly comparison given that Thimbleweed Park is not even a first-person shooter. And of course, I shouldn't be comparing them, but they just came to my mind when I was playing this game and I was writing the scripts. And of course, this game do it without letting you know that you're in a video game. Thimbleweed Park is like a game that was created in the 90s and only released recently, which leads me to my next point. The type of game. Thimbleweed Park is a very specific kind of graphic adventure with mechanics that are not used anymore, and if this is your first experience with this kind of game, it'll take some time to get into. It doesn't scratch that LA Noire and The Wolf Among Us itch that I hope it will when I started playing, so in case you were expecting something like that, don't. It's a cool setting with wonderful characters, but it fails to fully immerse you in its mysterious world. It fails as a detective game in my personal opinion. The humor is goofy and with lots of references to the previous titles and things that most of us will not get. Not saying it's bad, it's a design choice and I get it, but it's just something that happens and I personally see it as a problem. The game has an option to turn this stuff off, which may help you get into the story a little bit, but if you don't look it up or don't take the time to consider that that thing even exists, you may miss it. Take it like this: imagine if Thimbleweed Park is a stand-up comedy and you base it entirely around inside jokes that only you, maybe your coworkers, friends or family will get. Those particular social groups only, not everyone else. So all the people that went to see you, that went to see your comedic act will be like, okay. And 3 or 4 people in the background will be laughing because they do got the inside joke from 30 years ago. The ending feels unsatisfying, with unanswered questions, especially one that revolves around the dead body. The game creators have said that the game has a lot of metaphors and that we shouldn't look for hard evidence and explanations, to just ignore them and focus on the metaphors. Once you know the real mystery, you're going to be very disappointed if you're like me. The problem I have is don't brand this game as a detective or a mystery kind of game if you're going to do this kind of stuff. I understand the creators' ideas and I get what they did that. I just think that it makes things really dull and unfulfilling. It took me a while to sit down and replay it because once you know the ending, it loses its charm. Many pieces of media and entertainment have this sort of problem, one that the story or experience works fine the first time if you haven't seen it or experienced it, and not so fine the second time. Sure, you'll pick up lots of things you missed and references and allusions to the ending and other plot points, etc., while also asking yourself, why we'll never know them, and why is the game centered on an interesting mystery that never gets solved, and why all of what you're doing ultimately doesn't lead anywhere. It's meaningless. If you watch Quentin Tarantino's Hateful Eight the first time, you'll be submerged into the mystery, intrigue, and genuine interest in the story, but it highly relies on you not knowing. Once you do know it, it loses its charm, and a rewatch, in this case a replay, works fine if you really like the game and you know, for you to pick up references and metaphors. Get what they did that, and I get that these people are the creators behind Manic Mansion and Monkey Island, both goofy games, and I get their design choices, but don't rely on metaphors to brand your game. Don't rely on metaphors to justify unfilled plot holes. And I get that this is the kind of game that those goofy 90s graphic adventure kind of games are like. That's what they're going for, but I just think that that's the reason why they don't work anymore. Conclusion: Thimbleweed Park is a game that promised to be a classic point-and-click graphic adventure game, and they delivered just that. A really good and solid experience with great visuals, music, characters, mechanics, with a great first 4 or 5 chapters and a stimulating experience to figure out the puzzles. But it's a game that relies a lot on nostalgia and older fans, and that has a distracting story that could have been more focused. That last one is just personal opinion, of course. A friend who absolutely loves Monkey Island was 100% satisfied with the game, something I completely understand. I'm someone who was looking for a different kind of story. I had a good time and I'm glad I played it, supported amazing creators like this guy. If you want to adventure into the bizarre town of Thimbleweed Park and experience an old school video game story, this is your game. I think Thimbleweed Park is an objectively good game, a game that's not for everybody, and certainly a game that disappointed me on a personal level. I don't want to sound cocky, I don't want to sound rude, I just wanted to share my opinion on this particular game since I recently replayed it. But anyways guys, that's gonna be it for this particular video. I'm Dead Fox and I hope you have a wonderful day.